So this video is about the Club Lloyds current account. It's not the best current account in the world, but I think it's one that if you're happy to have an additional account, it's absolutely a must get because you get, for very, very little effort, some nice little freebies. Plus, you can often take advantage of a decent switching offer. So let's start off telling you what the Club Lloyds current account is. This isn't the basic account from Lloyds. They have a classic account, which is just all the sort of standard things you'd expect and comes with no fee. The Club Lloyds current account is their reward account. Okay, so you get something for having this account, but you have to jump through a couple of hoops to get some of those returns. Now, some of them are worth it, some of them aren't. I'll take you through them. The first thing you need to know is this has a £3 monthly fee, but this can be avoided. This can be easily avoided. And the way to avoid this is to pay in £1,500 into your account every single month. Now, that might sound like a lot, but actually for most people earning just even an average wage, that would be your salary. You know, money comes into your account, that would cover it. So you can transfer your wages straight into it if you want to, or your money can come into a separate account, which is what I do. Money comes in over there and I move it over by a standing order into that Lloyds account every single month. And it doesn't need to stay there. So literally a couple of days later, I transfer it out back to a different account. So it pops in, it goes out. The reason I leave a couple of days gap there is simply because sometimes weekends and bank holidays might get in the way. So I want to make sure the money is in the account, obviously before it leaves the account. And it doesn't have to be one single lot of £1,500. You can do smaller amounts if you want. You do 3 lots of £500 if you want, 5 lots of £300. It all does exactly the same thing. As long as it goes in within that month and then out again, that doesn't have to leave, of course, you can keep it in. You will avoid that £3 fee. Okay, so really, really important you do this. Then, once you've got the account, you're eligible for a couple of different features. And let's talk about the lifestyle benefits first of all, because these are the ones which I think, this is why I feel it's a no-brainer to get this account as an extra account, have that money coming in and out every single month in the background and just leave it there. Because every 12 months you get to choose a lifestyle benefit. That's what Lloyds call it, this Club Lloyds lifestyle benefit. There are a few different options here. You can get 6 cinema tickets for Odeon or View. Now, these tickets will be available to you, all of them at the beginning when you first open the account and select this as your offer. So it might take you, I don't know, a few weeks or a month to actually get them. And those tickets will be valid for 12 months. They're yours to use. And in fact, I've heard people who have then subsequently closed the account or switched it away to something else, and they've still got those tickets. They're still able to use them. You know, Lloyds do not come back and say you can't use these accounts anymore. Obviously, there is a risk they could, but I'm pretty sure they don't do that. 6 cinema tickets, that's pretty decent. Again, Odeon and View, you've got a choice there, which is pretty nice. Then the other option you've got is 12 movie rentals. And the movie rentals are for a site called Rakuten or Rakuten. I'm never quite sure how you say it. And you get one of these every single month, and they're valid for 35 days when you get them. And then when you use them, then you've got actually to use the, I think like 48 hours to start watching the film. So you don't actually have to go, quickly use them to start. You can obviously bundle them up a little bit, but they have a much shorter term. And obviously you will need to have the account for the year in order to get those over the month. You can also get a dining card, a Gourmet Society membership. This gives you, it's a restaurant discount card. I'm sure you're aware of them. You get 25% off your bill most of the time, including food and drink, but sometimes the offers do vary. Or the last option is a magazine subscription for 12 months. There are 29 different titles available for you. I'll list them up here so you can see them now. But the big ones you might be looking at are Cosmopolitan or Elle, Empire, Esquire, Good Housekeeping, Mojo, and Prima. There are obviously some specialist ones there around running and health and walking and things like that. They are your 4 different choices. You get to choose one of them, and that is the one that sticks for 12 months. After a year, you get to change the one you want to go for. In terms of value for money, probably the best one there, I would say, are the cinema tickets. Let's say a cinema ticket is anywhere between £5 and £10. Okay, so if they are nearer the £10 end of the market, then that's worth 60 quid, which is pretty decent. Obviously, if you have got a cheap cinema near you, around a £5 or 30, but I think most likely it can be in between. It could be more. It could well be more than £10. And why they're also quite valuable is, although there are a number of other ways to get free cinema tickets, which are fantastic, and I take advantage of them, such as an Odeon ticket every week with O2 Priority, they're limited to like certain days and certain ways to use them. You can use these any day of the week, and you can use them more than once at one time. So if you've got a family or a couple of you on a date night and you want to go on a Friday or Saturday night, when it is most expensive, you can use those tickets in one go. So I think that is a fantastic one to go for. And for most of you, I think that's probably the best bet as long as you like movies. The Rakuten one, the movie rentals, 12 of them, pretty decent value in that sense. They could be worth a huge amount of money. They're about £4.50 to £5 for an HD rental. But my issue with those ones is if you're kind of how many titles are coming through now for renting, and so many films are going on to streaming services straight away like Disney Plus or to Netflix. But if you're confident that you would use 12 rentals, one every single month, then that's not a bad option. The dining car subscription, again, I'm not always a big fan of those, and often there are deals out there, plenty of deals to get them for less. So I personally wouldn't go for that. In fact, I've actually got a free Gourmet Society membership through another trick elsewhere. So again, wouldn't be the best thing. What I tend to go for personally is the magazine subscription, simply because I'm taking advantage of the other offers elsewhere. It may be not worth as much as the others, maybe around 30, 35 quid. But it's quite nice to have a physical magazine. I get Empire come through. And although I know I can read it from my library via my iPad for free if I want to every single month, I quite like having the actual physical magazine with me. But they're all decent options. Again, if you like the sound of any of those, you can get one of those with for free essentially, because all you're doing is transferring the money in every single month. The other benefit that you get with a Club Lloyds current account is a higher rate of interest on your savings. And this used to be a pretty decent option. Even just earlier this year, I would have said, hey, it's a really good option for some of your money after you've used up accounts over here. But now we've seen interest rates. If you're a regular watcher of the channel, you'll know you can get 1.5% from Chase Bank now on easy access savings. You can get 2% or around 2% on smaller amounts between 1 and 3 grand, or a couple of options as well. In fact, you can get 3.5% in a regular saver account. The rates from the Club Lloyds account aren't amazing. This could change, and maybe they will improve this. It's always worth keeping an eye on it in case they do up them. And my savings update I do every single month here on the channel. If the rates improve on Club Lloyds, I'll let you know there. But right now, you get 0.6% on the only balances up to 4K, which again can be beaten really easily. And then you get 1.5% on balance between £4,000 and £5,000, which is a great amount. But you've got to obviously have the money in the first 4 grand in order to get that 1.5%. And if you have 5 grand in the account, the actual rate is the equivalent of 0.78%. So half of what you'd get if you put that 5%, that 5 grand in with Chase. So it's not really a runner right now. The other thing about it is, to get that interest rate, you have to have 2 direct debits coming out of the account. And again, you might have loads of those laying around. It might not be a problem. There are simple ones you can set up, but personally, it's not worth taking advantage of it, in my opinion. The only other thing to tell you about with this account, which may be might be worth knowing about, is around the overdraft. You'll get a £50 buffer on this account, which isn't a huge amount, but it might be just enough at the end of the month if things are always a little bit close, or an extra expense comes along, just to mean you don't get charged what can be very expensive overdraft fees. What your actual overdraft rate you'll get will depend. It goes between 27.5% up to 49.9%. And you could be anywhere between those. And that's if it's an arranged overdraft. Obviously, if it's unarranged, it could be really expensive. And so try not to use it for overdrafts. If you are a switcher, and I'll come back to switching offers in a minute, you will also get a £300 0% overdraft for 3 months. So again, not really one that's going to make too much of a difference, but maybe in the short term, it's worth considering. So a decent account in terms of benefits. But what about the app? And this to me is one of the most important things when choosing a bank account, if you're going to be using it on a regular basis. As I say, with my Club Lloyds account, the money comes in, the money comes out. I hardly ever even look at the app and use it for anything at all. I just use it for the freebie. But if you do want to use it for more than that, for more banking, it's not a bad option. It's identical to the Halifax app. So if you've already got a Halifax account, you'll be familiar with it. It does exactly the same thing. It's essentially the only difference is the color. This is green, the Halifax one is blue. But it's pretty decent. Maybe not. It's not as good, I don't think, as Starling, Chase, and Monzo, but it isn't far off in terms of some of those essentials that I want from my app banking. So, for example, when it comes to your account details and account management, you can go in, you can copy, and you can share your sort code and your account number and send them to people if they owe you money, which is nice feature to have. You have a similar thing with your card details as well. So you can go in and copy the long card number from the app. You can see the 3-digit security code on the back. You see the expiry date. You can see your PIN if you're not sure, if you need a reminder of that. All of that can be done in the app. You can also freeze the card online, in person, overseas, for gambling, which is all great. You can turn off contactless completely as well if you want to, but you can also set your contactless limit. If you're not happy with that £100 limit, which is the default one with most banks right now, you can set it in smaller levels, again, if you're worried about the fraud side of things. You can pay in a check on this, which again, not many of the high street banks will let you do this. Again, who has a check nowadays? It's not very frequent that we get them, but it's worth knowing that option is there if you want to. And it also has a handful of sort of budgeting and tracking features, which although aren't top of the range, they're all pretty decent. So you get notifications for a start, instant notifications for your spending, which is really important, particularly if you know exactly what you spent, really handy for keeping track of your spending. There is a relatively basic version of your sort of spending analysis. It will give you kind of a breakdown of where your money has gone in a few sort of different categories. But again, to be fair, none of the sort of high street banks are offering something particularly exciting there. You want to go to the third-party budgeting apps, which will really kind of give you a bit more sort of granular detail on those things. So it's not a bad option to have if you're doing your spending from here. Bit of an aside here. I generally would be using the Chase Bank 1% cashback for 12 months or a cashback credit card for my spending, which is what I do, which is why these features I rarely use on my current account, because I never do any spending from these other current accounts. But it's worth knowing that that is there. You will also be able to see your upcoming payments, which is handy. It's a separate tab. It's not in the account, a separate tab. So you know that you've got enough money in your account to meet those commitments that are coming along. And there is also a feature where you can view and cancel any subscriptions that you've got with your card. Nothing was working for me because I haven't set anything up there. But again, that might be quite useful for you to just kind of see them all in one place. And finally, it does have a save the change feature as well. You might be familiar with this already. I've done a whole video looking at some of those auto savings features that you can get with banks or with kind of external third-party apps. And this is not a bad thing. It's quite a nice thing to do. Basically, if you spend £1.80 and this feature is turned on, you can have it that 20p is moved from your main account into a separate savings account. And it's a nice little way to kind of gradually build up a little bit of extra savings. But once again, I would encourage you to be using Chase for this instead, because not only are you getting 1% cash back on that spending, you're getting 5% interest on those roundups. And if you don't want to use Chase or can't use Chase for whatever reasons, again, there are better options that do the same thing. But it's nice to know it's there. Again, overall, I think it is a decent app. It's just not necessarily as good as Chase, Monzo, and Starling. And finally, let's end on bank switching offers. And they do come and go. Broadly with Lloyds, they offer them 3 or 4 times a year, and they do tend to change. But what has been relatively consistent about these offers over the years is that you can get one of these even if you have already got a Club Lloyds current account. Now, maybe you might have to jump through a few hoops. Maybe you'll have to downgrade the account and then open a new one, which has worked. Maybe you'll have to go for one of their platinum accounts, which is more expensive. I won't talk about this right now, but £21 a month and adds in insurance, but get that money. But if again, you can get these. So far, all of them have been available to you if you already had a Club Lloyds account. Now, I can't guarantee that is always going to be the case. Okay, so if they do change the rules, they change the rules. But from my experience, this would mean if there isn't an offer running for you right now for switching into them, it doesn't necessarily mean you should wait. You can open up an account, and then when a switching deal comes back around, you hopefully will be able to get the cash. However, if we're talking about cinema tickets, magazine subscriptions, things like that, maybe the best thing to do would be to wait for one of these switching deals to come along. And if you don't have a spare account already set aside to switch into a new account, then maybe open up one of those now. Get an account which you know you're not going to use, doesn't have any freebies, any benefits. Have that ready to switch into Club Lloyds next time an offer is running. And when an offer is running, I will tell you about it in my bank account updates every single month. So make sure you do hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of those videos. My name is Andy Webb. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know what you think about the Club Lloyds current account and which of those lifestyle benefits that you've picked. Let me know in the comments below. And in the meantime, here are more videos about current accounts that you might find interesting.